Hello and welcome back to a fabulous video. We're going to be looking at some early foundations of American government and where we got the ideas that have come to form the foundation of our American system. So first of all, we have some questions that arise over the course of history about how much power the government should have. So in American history, in American political history, we are under the assumption that the government should be limited in power, that there are certain things that the government should be able to do and certain things that they shouldn't be able to do. And if they try to do the things they shouldn't do, then there's some sort of repercussion for it. So in America, the limiting factor in our government is namely our Constitution. So in our Constitution, there are certain things that the legislative branch can do, certain things that the executive branch can do, et cetera, et cetera. We also broach the subject of representative government. So how should the people be represented in their government? Should they be represented at all? So in our country today, of course, we have a representative democracy, also known as a republic, and the people, we the people, are represented in the fact that we choose who's going to be our congressman, who's going to be our senators, who's going to be our president. So those people represent us in our government. So there are a few different documents that I want to talk about today. The first one is the Magna Carta. Now, the Magna Carta, it's another way to say that would be the Great Charter, was signed in 1215 by a guy named King John. And in class, I'm going to tell you a story about King John. But this is an important document because it was the first time a monarch, a hereditary monarch, was actually limited in power. So King John, as you can probably imagine, did not want to sign the Magna Carta. He was actually forced to sign it, and it's basically kind of handcuffing the monarch. They can't do whatever they want. The second document, signed in 1628, is known as the Petition of Right, and this was signed by King Charles I, so he's a few hundred years down the road in English history. But this one namely prevented the king from acting without Parliament. So during the rule of Charles I, England saw this period of time where the king just wouldn't call Parliament into session. Like, I don't need you, legislative branch. I'm just going to do my own thing. So the Petition of Right was signed to prevent the king from being able to do that. Next, we have the English Bill of Rights, and this was signed in 1688, and this was signed by William and Mary. So basically, England found themselves without a king, and they went to the previous king's closest living relative, which was Mary. She was already married to William, and they basically said, hey, you want to come be Queen of England? And she said, I'll only do it if my husband can rule with me. And they said, that's great, but you can only do it if you sign this English Bill of Rights. So similar to the Magna Carta, the English Bill of Rights limited the power of the monarch, but it also went a little bit further and listed certain rights of the people that were protected. So things like you're not going to be subjected to cruel and unusual punishment. You're not going to have excessive fines. Some of those things we took directly and put them in our Bill of Rights. So the English Bill of Rights, super important document. Some even earlier legal documents and codes that we want to look at that help form the foundation for our government system. The Mayflower Compact. So this was actually drafted and signed as the Pilgrims were floating on the Mayflower coming over to the New World. They actually were given a charter for land in Virginia. They got blown off course by a storm, and they realized that they weren't going to land in the area where they were supposed to land. So they realized they needed to draft some sort of a government, and we have the Mayflower Compact. The big thing about this one is that the men who were on board of the Mayflower basically signed their names, representatives of their family, and said, we're going to stick together, okay? We're going to work together. We're going to protect each other as we set up this new settlement. We also have the general fundamentals. This one was from the Plymouth Colony, and this one's super fun. We might look at some of these in class. But basically, the general fundamentals set up a fairly strict system of law, like of punishments and that kind of stuff. Like, for example, if you were a burglar, you got branded with a B on your wrist. Everyone knew you were a burglar. And the last one is the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut. And this also set, it's kind of like the first written constitution in what would become the United States. All right, so that is a quick overview of those documents. If you have any questions, let me know.